Costa Mesa Sanitary District. Bob Wooten's going to lead us in the pledge and
Okay, place your hand up your heart and follow me in the salute to the flag of the greatest country in the world. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please bow your heads. I want to thank. This is the time of the year to thank staff for all the good work they do in supporting public health of the community with our waste hauling, with our sewering program and our trash hauling business. I think it's also significant to note that we've passed several milestones this year. It was the district's, the oldest district in Costa Mesa. Costa Mesa Sanitary District had their 75th anniversary. Jim Ferryman celebrated a major milestone anniversary with 30 years on the board. Staff participated in many programs. We have a budget which has no fee increases in our sewer service and a 4% increase in our solid waste service. We have an audit that we'll listen to tonight, which I don't know if the proper term is a clean audit. And very significantly, the sanitary district actively supported and participated in the #1 program in the city, and that is homelessness. We fiscally supported the bridge program and also the permanent shelter that will go a long way towards dealing with the homelessness issue. The homelessness issue was, in our recent survey, the #1 priority of the citizens. Anyway, congratulations to staff and the board and our consultants, and wishing you all very merry holidays, and thank you, Lord, for all of this. Amen.
very well done. Thank you. Okay, roll call, please.
James Farragut,
Present.
Robert
Here.
Arlene Schaefer. Here. Michael Schaefer.
Here.
Art Perry.
Here.
Are there any late communications?
Yes, Mr. President, we did receive a late written communication from Mr. Mosier. The copy of that is communication is before you, guys.
Are there any ceremonial matters for presentation? Thank you. Public comments. At this time, would anyone in the care to address this body? If not, we'll move along.
Maybe that's
Yeah. Jim Mosier, you wanted to comment on the CR&R review, or do you want to wait till that comes out? Any other public comments? Let's move on. Consent calendar.
Move approval. Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Question, does that include the minutes? Yeah? Because I had some comments on the minutes.
Okay.
So could we move on the consent calendar and then
Yeah.
just take the minutes separate? Okay.
Okay, so we're voting on the consent calendar only.
Except for number 3, which is the minutes.
Yeah, except number 3.
The board minutes of
Oh, yeah.
the study
Okay.
session.
We'll do number 3 in a minute. All those in favor of signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 3.
Okay. On this one, Director Perry had a comment about Orange Coast College, and he was concerned as far as, if we could have a report on the recycling and what was happening for the last 2 months.
item 3 is on our
It was, let's see,
You might be the study
Orange
session.
Coast College report to Guzner. The name was Guzner, Ms. Guzner, for September and October. And shared was the Orange Coast College collection and number, you were wondering about the recycling number.
Might have mentioned if that was included in our study session report. Maybe that was my question.
Maybe it was a study session, I don't know.
That's probably the study session
Yeah,
report.
sorry.
Yes, we usually include the OCC's numbers in that report.
I think I always ask that question just to make
Yes.
sure that there is.
Okay. And then the other one was on, actually, Mr. Hampkins. He had made a comment about the smoke test, and are we having that report as far as the smoke test at the fairgrounds, and, you know, what's taking place, or how long it's gonna be, or anything?
I believe you presented that at the last board meeting.
Pardon? No, we had that, and then the way it was left was that it was gonna be ongoing, and we'd have a report on what's going on.
Yeah, yes, but we haven't, as soon as we get the data from the report, we'll get it to the board, but it's.
That'll be forthcoming at some point.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted.
I'll move to approve number 3.
Second.
Discussion? Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. General Manager's report, we're gonna move, let's see, we're gonna go with number 1, receive and file.
Yes.
Comprehensive annual financial report. In accordance with the government auditing standards.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll turn this over to Caitlin Trench. She's going to do the introductions, and then we will have our auditors give a presentation and address any questions you may have.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. In front of you is the comprehensive annual financial report for fiscal year 2018-19, compiled after completion of the audit for fiscal year 2018-19. Also attached, you will find the auditor's required communication letter and the auditor's report in compliance with the government auditing standards. Tiemann, Ramirez and Smith audit firm has issued an unmodified or a clean opinion for the fiscal year 2018-19 audit. Some of the financial highlights during the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2019. The district's total assets exceeded liabilities by approximately $62.3 million. Of that amount, $18.9 million is unrestricted and available to meet the district ongoing obligations. Net position of the solid waste fund decreased by approximately $380,000. The district adopted a deficit budget approximately $983,000 in the solid waste fund. However, revenue came in higher than budgeted and expenses were lower than expected. The wastewater fund net position increased by approximately $969,000. This increase was due to a one-time transfer in of $411,000 from the fixed asset replacement fund for the purchase of the new wastewater combination cleaning truck, which was not delivered by the fiscal year end. The remaining increase was the result from permits, inspection, sewer connection revenues, and investment earnings. Mr. Calhoun, partner of the audit firm Tiemann, Ramirez and Smith, is here today to go over the audit and answer any questions you may have.
Okay.
Good evening, President Farron, members of the board. To extend my appreciation for allowing me to present the audit results for the fiscal year ending 2019. We were engaged to perform a financial statement audit, which is essentially a process to provide an opinion on the financial statements to ensure that they are in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and that there are no material misstatements in the financial statements. We accomplished this by performing various tests of balances and transactions, making sure that they are in accordance with the district policies and also with generally accepted accounting principles. We have completed the audit process, and I'll be going through the various reports and letters that we issue as part of the audit process. First and foremost is the audit report that is included within the financial statements, or the CAFR. Within the report, it essentially states our opinion that elaborates that overall management is responsible for the fair presentation and preparation of the financial statements. We as the auditor, our responsibility is to express opinions that the financial statements are free from material misstatement and are properly stated. We have completed the process and have issued an unmodified opinion, otherwise known as a clean opinion on the financial statements, indicating that they are in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. There was no significant changes in accounting principles and whatnot, so the report remains pretty well standard for this year. One of the other reports that we issue is a report on internal control and financial compliance. This is required under government auditing standards to, if there was any internal control failures, deficiencies, and policies, things of that nature that would cause the financial statement to be misstated. Happy to report that there were no issues for us to report this year. The last letter that we issue is the audit communication letter, otherwise known as the Stat 114 letter. This is a formal communication between the auditor and the governing body discussing the conduct of the audit and various other matters. One of the major areas that we discuss is management does use estimates in their financial reporting, such as depreciation, the calculation of the pension, and OPEB, and various other matters. Also, if there was any issues in conducting the audit, disagreements with management, things of that nature, happy to report that there was no such matters going on. One other area that we do put in there is management representation. This is letting you know that management has represented to us, the auditor, that various elements of financial reporting, essentially think of it as a certification of some of the items that they have given to us is correct, factual, and is up to the current date of December 3rd to that point. Within financial reporting, there's also up to the point of June 30th, 2019, but there could be other events that could transpire thereafter that point up through the point that they represent to us, such as lawsuits, other matters that would require disclosure or modification to the audit report or financial statements. It's a very standard and very common letter to provide during the audit. There was no issues or any modifications to the letter that were abnormal to that. Also within the letter is letting you know that in case there was any material misstatements that had to be corrected. Happy to say that there was no journal entries or material misstatements that need to be corrected. We came in, everything was fairly stated, and we were happy to report that. With that, that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Yeah, Mike?
Thanks for a boring report. What I mean by that is it's pretty clean.
Yes.
I mean, when we hear that there's no disagreements with management, that's pretty boring, and that's great. I did have one question. I'm not an accountant, so in the cover letter from you guys dated December 3rd, 2019, there was a statement that says, management's estimate of the fair value of investments is based on information provided by financial institutions. What does that mean?
So, within the investment reports that you receive from your treasurer and also from the banks themselves, the financial institutions being the banks, they give you two values. One, the cost, what you originally purchased it with, and then the market value. Another part is LAIF, Local Agency Investment Fund, sponsored by the pool by the state. They give a calculation to mark up the value, mark up or possibly down, the value of your investment with the pool.
Okay, so when our treasurer gives us our quarterly investment report, then the information that's taken from those reports is what you're using in the fair value of the investments.
Correct. The base data, the statements from the bank.
So
is
based on all
accurate.
those people that we invest with, they're the ones giving you the information. They're the financial institutions you're referring to.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Caitlin, when you made one of your statements, you said that you can tell us the total of our unrestricted funds that we have. It was pretty significant, I thought. I didn't realize it was that much.
The unrestricted fund, the exact amount,
Approximately.
18.9 million.
Okay. I thought you said something higher, so.
She said the value of the
I believe you're referring to a total net position of 62, which mostly represents investment in fixed assets.
Okay, does that include our asset program, those totals? Our asset totals? Is that in there?
Yes, 62.3 million.
Okay. That's what I was getting.
I would suggest the report could be longer next year, if you leave the pages out about debt. There's 2 pages on debt, which we have zero debt and have not had in the past 10 years. I would also like to compliment Caitlin on a tough year, but doing extraordinary work in the absence of, our recently retired treasurer, or not treasurer, that would be Gander, right?
Take it easy.
Our financial, our head of the finances, Caitlin, I think you did an outstanding job this year.
Thank you.
Under very stressful conditions, I believe, with a massive amount of work. I'm very pleased with your performance.
I remember a question, I'm not quite sure the right terms of Mark. We still have some debt going for our employees, because we didn't do it the last couple of years to pay off our debt. Yeah,
Referring to
yeah.
CalPERS. Yeah, you will always have that liability. The actuarial evaluation is a 2-year look back, and so when you made the decision to fully fund that, you were fully funding it at a valuation from 2 years ago. So even though that you paid it off at that point in time, it will always show as a liability on your books. It's not going to go away.
What is that total now, roughly?
Defer to Caitlin.
Or do we pay that every year, or we wait every 2 years, or?
We are getting our actuarial soon, so we'll find out what's the amount will be. I think for the year end 2019, about 89,000.
It's not for done.
Yeah, the year before was
So now
115.
we're paying off.
Is our plan to pay it every 2 years, but and not let it accumulate? Or what's your plan, Scott?
I'll have to sit down with finance to talk about, it's $89,000, I mean, it's $89,000 we can use somewhere else in operations. It's so insignificant to our budget.
Does that increase every year roughly, like 100,000 or something?
It could actually decrease, depending on how PERS does with their investment program, it can fluctuate up or down.
Yes.
Director Shaker, you're absolutely correct. It really depends on PERS performance and with their portfolio, and then the actuarial calculations that end up happening when they look at mortality tables and everything, with the way that the district is and the age of the district employees that are covered under the plan and the years of service. So it will absolutely change every year. Last year it went down, but it could go up, it could go down. As Scott had alluded to, it's such a small amount that your liability is compared to other jurisdictions that you certainly can pay it off, but to do that with such limited funding, you're just moving your funds around and taking them out of other programs or other projects if you so choose to do that.
At what point would we consider paying it off?
Well, when you made that decision before, your liability was up in the $300,000 range, and so you made a decision to put that $300,000 and pay it off at that point in time with the valuation that you used to make that decision at that point in time. It's something I would think that as you look at each budget cycle, that should be a discussion during the budget cycle as to whether you want to do it, but I wouldn't look at it and wouldn't even consider it outside of a budget cycle.
I'd be curious to see, it's public knowledge, I mean, everybody's liability is public knowledge. I'd be curious to see if CSDA could get us some kind of comparison on what special districts of our size and nature, what they're carrying. I mean, maybe to toot our own horn a little bit because we are so low, but I'd be curious to see what it is.
Orange County Ed District paid off $225 million.
Yeah, you know.
And they're just a lot of agency.
But they still owe money.
Well, they will, they'll find.
They will, just like us.
They may or may not.
So that answers my question. So we're looking, might get 300,000, so we're looking at closer.
If you want to see a trend of how the pension has decreased over the years, if you look on page 41 of the CAPR, it presents the last 5 years of information of a pension accumulated up to 10. Let's say back in fiscal year 2005, it was 270.6 thousand. This year it went down to 89, decreased this year by $15,000 due to investment results. We do a number of special districts and cities and other agencies. Yours is one of the more healthier ones that, in my experience, I've seen. So you're, as Mark Davis indicated, you're always going to have a liability, and you're contributing all throughout the year through employee contributions, or required employer contributions. So it's, you can pay that off right now if you ever so deem so.
That's good. Okay, any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. We appreciate your help. And we're going to move item 4 up to 2. And the item is the CR&R performance review.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to turn over to our Employee of the Year, Bila Guzman.
Pressure, no pressure.
Good evening, President Berryman, members of the board. Like previous years, the district does an annual review of CR&R, and we also hire Mike Valley Consulting to perform a partial compliance review. There were some discrepancies were found this year, so we also directed Mr. Valley to do a waste composition review. He will be presenting his findings on both reports right now, and then I will let you guys know what the district found.
No microphone, but I'll talk loud. Excuse me, I have a bit of a winter cough, so I'll hopefully not have too much problem with that. Basically, I want to thank the board and the district staff for allowing me to do the review of CR&R. As in past years, I found them to be doing a very good job on a number of the 26 areas that we reviewed. My 2 concern areas were alleviated to some extent through follow-up study. The first one would be the 6 vehicle leaks. I know that was a concern. We found out that 5 of those were related to a certain area in the packer body of the CR&R vehicles that was being damaged, or where basically food waste is very acidic, so that had eaten away, so there was a tiny pinhole leak in a couple. They repaired all the vehicles by welding new materials in place. The only thing I would look at is maybe in future years and for future vehicle purchases, see if that might be a design flaw in the vehicle. I mean, the vehicles are supposed to last and be serviceable for 10 to 12 years. Usually what causes them to be taken off the road is it just upkeep on brakes and everything becomes too costly, and it's better to get a new vehicle in service. But again, if you have the same issue next year with the same area of the packer, it's directly below where the materials are loaded in, that might be a design flaw because the vehicle wasn't at an age where that should be wearing out normally. So that was one area that it was resolved and repaired, and they showed me the welds and new steel was put in, so they should be fine.
The other area was in looking at the diversion that was reported. As you may know, there was a study done several years ago to ascertain how much plastic, paper, cardboard, and the like was sorted out of the waste stream. And those percentages are then used on the monthly reports that you get from CRNR, because it's virtually impossible. They have a large facility, vehicles coming in from all over. There's no way to accurately clock your trucks versus the other trucks. So periodically these studies are done. This year I found that the study was significantly different than the master manifest that was presented. And again, the master manifest is CRNR's statement. We do a review of receipts. These were the materials that were recycled. This is the amount that we threw away from your route. And again, that master manifest showed a big jump in organics being diverted and a drop in other materials. So first and foremost, that's not new. As you know, China's green sword policy has affected recycling markets. Mixed paper and mixed plastic markets have virtually disappeared. Very hard to recycle that material. So you've seen a drop. But the drop was significant enough that it was decided that we should do a study to see, because again, you have separate collection of your organics. You have trucks that pick up green waste, that pick up food waste. Is there enough organics left in the trash stream that's picked up to support the diverted amount that was claimed? So we did 3 separate sorts. We took routes, and those are provided as backup to cover kind of 3 cross sections of the city. Dumped the entire load, used a random grid sampling, and then captured about 300 pounds of material to then sort out. The end result was we came up about 7% short of the amount that was claimed. But again, if you look at spring, that typically would be a higher green waste generation period. And then of course the Christmas season, your green waste goes up. So in our opinion, the figures that they presented are within the realm of possibility. They're not an outlandish claim. What did we gather coming out of that in addition? Number one, you still have a lot of green waste in your trash. You have a lot of people that aren't taking advantage of the program, so that's something to work on going forward. A lot of food waste still in there, so it's a problem for all cities. You're much further along than most because you actually have a program so your residents can recycle food. So there's going to be a learning curve. But the other thing we learned is that the estimator that you're given each month of what diversion is going on is considered inaccurate now. So the suggestion is to require CRNR maybe to do some quarterly studies and revise those figures so they more accurately represent the actual diversion that they're able to substantiate at the end of the year. And I'm sure there may be some questions and comments on the report, so in the interest of saving time and protecting my cough, I'll just go right through the questions.
Does anyone have questions? Art?
How would CRNR go about doing those checks?
Well, basically, we took 3 random trucks. Before, I think it was 2013, when we had done the previous estimation of diversion, we did a few more trucks. We looked at census studies. We tried to get a sampling of the entire city that represented all of the different routes. This time, in the interest of really time, being able to present the findings to you, we just did 3 routes. So again, I think on a quarterly basis, over the course of the next year, they should at least do 3 trucks, maybe 4, so that at the end of the year, they've looked at 12 different routes. You've got all that data in, and they can actually get a better estimate of how much organics you have. Right now, 53% of your diversion is from organic waste than primarily green waste. So, again, your waste stream seems to support that. Our study found a lot of green waste still in the trash, plus the 9,000 tons of green waste and food waste that you're diverting through other programs. So again, it's substantiated diversion at the end of the year, but again, you get monthly reports and you approve those, and so in good conscience, I can't say, well, those reports should continue and be assumed accurate. The overall diversion rates match up, but the allocation of material, the old factors don't apply now post green sword policies in China. And again, what CRNR appears to be doing is recovering a lot of that green waste from the trash stream to keep their diversion rate where it's been. It actually improved a little bit from 59.78%, I think, to 60.51%. So they're improving your diversion, but they're having to go after different materials to get it. And again, we suggest that they do some type of composition study going forward.
I have one more question, Jim. How do you determine what routes you're going to take? Because are you picking up trash that don't have the green cans, or are you picking up only the routes with the green cans, the organic cans?
Well, and again, I apologize for not having all the data on the routes, but basically I gave them days and areas to pick. So again, I wanted to go along Baker Street, kind of off of Newport Boulevard, and then I wanted to do something around Mesa Verde. So I got a cross-section socioeconomically, but I didn't take into account who had food waste carts and who didn't. I frankly assumed they all
Part
did.
of Mesa Verde, as we don't have, where I live, we don't have the green cans. The association, town association, so we don't have green cans, but they still put our waste, but they don't pick up our green waste, but they pick up our trash, which I put the green waste in. So
Yeah,
that's.
it
that's
looks
what you're
like, again, somewhat familiar with Costa Mesa. I think this was primarily single-family homes
doing. Okay, so,
in
then all
Mesa
of
Verde.
them, all of them would have.
Yeah. So again, that argues my point that over the course of the year, they should sample more in different areas to come up with what the true figure is.
That's why we established a new ad hoc committee that helped us with that plan,
Mhm.
for us to be more active, to get that information out, have ways to get it.
Arlene, did you have a?
Yes, I do. I know that the trucks are all over, CRNR is all over in every city, around here. I've seen them a lot. But do you use the same trucks for certain areas? Like you're saying Costa Mesa, do you use the same trucks all the time, or
Well,
is there, you don't care?
I wouldn't know because I haven't examined all of CRNR's fleet.
Oh,
I live in San Juan Capistrano, for
Uh-huh.
example, and we have CRNR as well.
Right.
To me, the trucks look the same.
Yeah.
I think they're the same make and model, but again, 6 complaints for vehicle issues over years is actually low. But since there were all leaks and we found one area where they were all occurring, again, I don't know if that's a
And
design
that's why I
flaw
was
or not.
curious if it's just, our area that seemed to have a lot of problems with the trucks.
I didn't get the other areas in the survey. I was looking specifically investigating the complaint logs, and hey, there were vehicle leaks, so let me, inspect these vehicles, which ones had the complaints. And again, like I said, 5 of them were Packer-related area, right where they load the material, and,
Well, I know they have to a certain time during the day to pick up, but it goes into the night. And, something is haywire. Because, then what happens, we can't turn around and enforce them to have them off the street because, the trucks actually just picked up and nobody's home to take care of the trucks.
Yeah, no, I think they're trying to maximize, because again, haulers make profit, and they're picking up material by volume, but they pay by weight. And so loading that truck to its capacity is good routing. I was not happy with it, let me tell you, when I did my waste sorts, because we had to wait around 45 minutes for a truck to maximize its route. So they're serious about being efficient in their operation. But again, the Costa Mesa situation being different than others, nothing jumped out at me as a unique problem. All trucks will have leaks. I was surprised you had no hydraulic leaks. Typically those hydraulic lines are what go and what leak. So I was surprised that that wasn't the issue of causing the leak. It was the packer itself. But again, 5 instances over the course of a year is not an unusual issue.
Like the complaint log would be generated by CRNR for people calling complaints in.
Correct.
Yeah, because I've seen at-track leaks.
Now, you
I
may
didn't call
have
in,
had
I doubt anybody
some
else.
leaks that weren't called in. Again, I went through the call logs, so that's where I
Yeah.
got the
Okay,
leaks.
so the data you have, the CRNR's data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mike?
Mike, in your report, items 14, 15, and 20, the support service. Previous audit period, you said there were 41 complaints. This audit period, there were 66.
You had 44 for missed pickup. That
Yeah.
was the big,
I'm sure that's always gonna be the biggest complaint factor, because people want the trash picked up. It's a little alarming to me, the numbers may be low, but it's still quite an increase. Do you have any indication, is it new drivers, is it change in routes, is it sloppy work? Do you have any indication of why we had so many missed service?
well, again, I'm probably a bit jaded having done this in a lot of communities for a lot of years. To me, out of all the collections, basically, 4 per month or a little bit less is not a lot of missed pickup calls. In continuity, looking at a previous year, yeah, it's gone up, but, I have to say I'm guilty of that. I've lived in 2 neighborhoods in South Orange County, and both of them happen to be the first stop on the morning collection round. So the trucks are out there at 7. So, I've been tempted, even though I should know better, to call up and say, hey, there's a mixed pickup, because I forgot to put them out the night before. So again, there were 6 that I would say were somewhat concerning, because there were residents that said, hey, I've called about this before. It appeared to be a habitual pattern. It appeared to be something where a driver was replaced on that route by another person coming in, and was there adequate training for that? Was there follow through? I mean, it appeared to, from looking at their records, because they counseled the person, they, appeared to take reasonable steps to fix the problem. Sometimes you just have a Murphy's Law property, and it's like, really, the other person we put in made the same mistake?
I know, the 5 of us, if someone gets missed and they know we're on the board of directors, they don't call CRNR, they call us, and then we call Scott. I noticed this year, especially in my neighborhood, the complaints people have given to me, generally were after holidays. Okay, where pickup was delayed a day, and then whatever happened after that holiday, we seem to have more complaints.
The scrambling going on.
I don't know what, the drivers obviously have a double workload on that delayed day, I guess. But it just seemed like there was a pattern of that missed after holidays.
Well, again, when it's a day after collection, you actually have an additional day of collection, plus the holidays usually gathering, so there's more waste. So
Right.
typically, the trucks will fill up quicker than they do, so they have to break off route at a different point and come back. So it's usually a more challenging time for the route manager and the haulers
Sure.
because of that extra day's waste.
Okay, one last comment, Jim. You had mentioned in the beginning of the report that, I'm gonna say the lifespan, I don't know what else to call it, of a truck is 10 to 11 years.
Yeah, then after 12, it typically isn't in service. It might be sold to the secondary market, but
Now, maybe we're gonna talk about this later, but we've come to learn that most of the trucks on within our jurisdiction are closer to 18 years old.
really,
Yeah.
well, again, they can do through maintenance, they can replace braking systems, they can do all of that, but again, with a lot of the air standards that are going on, fleets are rolling over now more frequently.
Which leads me to my very last question, I promise, is because we're a clean fuel systems, because we're on the RNG, does that help with the lifespan of those trucks?
It should with the operating components to some extent, but again, the braking system.
Well, the mechanicals.
All of that can be replaced. The concern would be, and that may be the issue with the Packer bodies, is those are fixed metal plates that can wear over time, and that may be your issue.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, would you like to comment?
Thank you, President, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jim Mosher. I did send in a written comment that I had some time to look at this afternoon. And with all due respect to your consultant, I don't believe there's been any change in what CNR R&R claims is the mix of what they recycle, nor any change from last year to this year. I guess you have electronic copies. This is on page 9 and 10 of the report. If you look at page 10, you'll see the compilation of the monthly reports. You'll see it says Newport Beach, 34.42 pounds of newspaper. You turn it over and look at what they call the manifest. You'll see 34.42. Turn it over to page 10, look at the amount of cardboard. You'll see it's about 2,400 something tons, and you turn it over to the manifest, it's the same. The numbers are all the same. The only two differences between the monthly reports and the so-called manifest is in the monthly report, down towards the bottom, you'll see a number called organics, AD system, and it shows 9,322 pounds. And in the manifest, that has been added to the green waste line. And the only other change is on the monthly reports, it says rigid plastic, it's called mixed plastic on the other one. They're exactly the same reports, and here before is exactly the same. They're all based on the same numbers. CR&R regards every mixed cart that's picked up from a Costa Mesa address. Nobody checks this. It's regarded as being 50.05% recyclable, 49.95% landfill. Every mixed cart that is picked up from a Newport Beach address is regarded as 51.9% recyclable, 48.03% landfill. Every organics cart that is picked up from any address, Newport Beach or Costa Mesa, are regarded as 95.4% recyclable, 4.6% landfill. The only thing that changes the numbers from month to month or from year to year is you have a different mix of tons collected in Costa Mesa versus Newport Beach in mixed carts, or you have a different amount coming from the green-topped organic carts. So I believe possibly there is some misunderstanding in reading the CR&R reports. That I have no reason to think that they're accurate. They're all using exactly the same numbers, no matter what is being picked up, and the numbers presumably come from several years ago. And as we heard, there's been a change in the recycling world. They may not be accurate or not, and it's very hard to compare these numbers to Mr. Vallier's numbers because CR&R is showing the breakdown of the recyclable part of it. They're not telling you what part is unrecyclable. Mr. Vallier evaluated the entire contents of what was there, and he did not tell you which part of that he thought was recyclable or not. So in his characterization, he has many more plastics, but not all of the plastics are necessarily recyclable. The big question I have, since there has been a change in the recycling world and where stuff can go, in the manifest, which is, I don't think receipts, it's just the same numbers compiled into this report to make it look like a report for the district. It shows where each category goes to. The newspapers go to something called Newport International. Cardboard goes to something called Potential Industries. The question is, what is the fate of those things after they go there? Because we've heard from CR&R that there's not a market for much of this stuff. If there's not a market and it's going to these people, what are these people doing with it? And I think that's the significant question about recycling. Thank you.
Anyone else here to comment or have any questions? Do we need action on this?
Nabila said she wanted to close the discussion before.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
We need to be able to.
Really wants to follow, to
Oh,
code, including comments, so.
President Berryman, so aside from Mike Valley conducting his third-party audit, the district staff also audits the contract. We reviewed CR&R in 9 different areas. We evaluated CR&R in 9 different areas, and I would just briefly highlight staff's findings. Like Mr. Valley mentioned, there was an increase in leak and spill complaints. There was also an increase in truck breakdowns over the review period. So staff did meet with Dean Ruffridge, Senior Vice President to CR&R, and discuss the aging fleet. CR&R had a very positive response. They agreed with the district that CMSD's fleet is aging, and they are looking into replacing some of the trucks in our fleet to help alleviate the truck breakdowns and the route delays. Additionally, staff requested that an additional mixed waste route was added per day. Currently we have 7, but it is not enough. We have a lot of new construction in Costa Mesa, so a lot of the trucks were actually hauling more than they are supposed to. It's the law that they are not supposed to carry over 12 tons, and we found in our monthly weight tickets that they are carrying up to 16 tons per truck. So again, Mr. Ruffridge was very understanding, and they will be adding an additional mixed waste route daily.
What does that mean with an additional truck?
The route, the trucks won't be out as late.
I mean, are they adding a new
But
truck?
yeah, if you consider we're gonna add one more truck.
They're gonna add-
Yes.
I was discussing adding one more truck to the fleet.
When does that start? Did they discuss that?
They mentioned they have a lot of new trucks in one of their yards in the Inland Empire, but they are waiting on CNG tanks. Per our contract, all the trucks are supposed to be CNG, so they are waiting on that before they can begin operation. So Mr. Ruffridge was gonna follow up with the district at the beginning of 2020. Additionally, the second finding was, per our agreement, CR&R sustainability specialist is supposed to dedicate 20 hours a week to promoting solid waste diversion programs. The audit found that the specialist is actually spending an average of 18 hours a week, but most of the time is spent doing administrative work, attending study sessions, preparing monthly reports, answering phone calls and emails. This was also brought up to Mr. Ruffridge, and he suggested that the district be broken up into different areas where the specialist can tackle each area depending on what they're experiencing. So if we have an area that's contaminating their organic carts, he can focus on promoting the organics program. If there's an area that's not placing out their carts correctly or that the mixed waste carts are overfilled, he can focus on explaining that they can get an additional cart for an extra $9 a month. And then lastly, the cart-to-cart outreach was discussed. The board of directors saw the tags during the study session. Mr. Ruffridge agreed that 150 homes per quarter was not enough, so he has promised that a consultant will take over the outreach and the mixed waste carts will also be checked. So before, only the organics carts the lids were going to be open to see if it was contaminated, but now the consultant will also be looking at the mixed waste carts, and 10% of the service area will be tackled every year, which is an improvement from just the 150 homes per quarter.
Is that a program that PAR's going to work on?
So PARS is no longer going to do it.
Oh, he's not going
Yeah, CRNR will get their consultant to do the outreach.
to. Who's that consultant?
His name is Eric. He used to be a consultant. I believe now CRNR has hired him full-time to do outreach for other cities. So he did the similar program in Tustin.
Is he going to do the same program that PAR's is going to do?
Correct. And now instead of just looking at the organic carts, he'll be looking at the mixed waste carts as well.
That's good. That could help could help us a lot.
Can we ask Nabil some question?
Anyone have a final question?
Well, in the staff report, Nabila, number 7, to me, is the biggest concern. I mean, the public outreach and all that stuff, that I'm sure they're gonna take care of. But the 270 missed curbside pickups and an increase in truck breakdowns, I mean, I think at our study sessions, when we do the solid waste report, if it can be included, I'd like to know how many complaints for the previous month we've got. We can't, I know Mike Hughes said something about 4 a month. This is telling me we've got 20 missed pickups a month, over 20 missed pickups a month. That's unacceptable in my mind. I mean, I know they get resolved, and I know I had an incident a couple of weeks ago, and the people at CNR were absolutely, the young lady I spoke to was fantastic. She was considerate, she was caring, I mean, all the things you'd expect from customer service. But if we're averaging over 20 missed pickups a month, that's concerning to me.
So the difference between the number of staff reports and CRNR and the number Mike sees is the number staff receives is through phone calls that get logged into our Gov Outreach program. The number that Mike Valley sees, it's not every call that comes into CRNR, it's only the ones that get escalated to the route manager.
Right.
So CRNR could be getting 60 missed calls a month, but they will only report those really angry residents that ask to speak to management, which is why our report only states 3, 4, 5 a month, and it's not an accurate representation.
Okay, then can we have a report on the calls we're getting? That's, I mean, if that's that'd be more relevant to me, because those are the ones that we're addressing here. So those are the ones I would like to see in a monthly report. And this thing with the trucks, CRNR's been in the news. They caused a brush fire, and they're being sued. I don't want them to have to do that here in Costa Mesa. We have a great hauler. I'm totally supportive of them. I just don't want us to be in the news and if a broken down truck, and I guess the fire wasn't because of a broken down truck, it was whatever combusted in the bin. But I think we need to talk to CRNR as much as we can about getting these trucks up to a better standard. That's all.
I have one more comment, Jim.
Okay, Art?
Okay, back on number 7 also says the general manager may change the existing routes. Is that you, Scott? What's on number 7 now?
Yes, in the contract it states that the general manager can change or add routes, can meet with CRNR, which is why we met with CRNR last week. And we presented our findings, our concerns to Dean, and he was again very
mean,
Understanding.
This statement makes, with Scott, if he wanted to change the route because of some complaints that are habitual, maybe we do that route first. I mean, I'm just thinking,
Yeah,
So,
I think it's
you
a
know
good
what I mean?
call, Art.
if that's the case, we should examine like Mesa Verde. Is that where you're having a lot of headaches?
Actually, I think we've had more complaints on the west side.
I don't know, I'll say in College Park.
I'm saying maybe Scott and Nabila, you could consider, changing the route time. Instead of, maybe it's a late pickup or something. If you think that's gonna help us with the complaint problem, just a thought. If you have that flexibility, I'd say use it.
Well, I thought at one time we were going to have CRNR PARs or someone come just every study session so that we could be updated on what's going on.
It usually does.
It usually does, yeah.
Use it all.
But I agree with Arlene, I mean, we need to get more
Yeah.
information.
I don't know, but I mean, Nabila and Scott could be working on the changing the routes if it's a certain area that's getting all the complaints. And I don't know where the complaints are coming from, but just as a thought.
Well, I know we had a continual problem on Monroe, was it Monrovia, Scott?
Yes, yes.
And that's, I haven't heard from that resident in a long time, so maybe some attention's being paid. On the driver complaints, Nabila, do you know what they complain about? Does the driver, how do you complain about a guy who's in a truck? Is it because he put the trash can down and the lid was open, or?
Speeding, there was one altercation supposedly with a resident that was complaining about him missing a pickup or spilling
Okay.
debris when he picked up. So again, all the 44 missed pickup complaints, the 12 driver complaints, the 6 spills, all of those that escalated, what I'm doing is checking to see if they've been resolved, if they were, what did they do to resolve those complaints? So again, it's true, if it's just a call saying, hey, I'm not requiring an action, I'm just saying, hey, there was a missed pickup, I'm not seeing that, but all of these that were escalated, the reviews to make sure they were handled, how were they handled, you know, what
But
they're
the
taking care
main
of.
thing is too, in the fall, like this with the rain,
Mhm.
that the lids don't come up all the time, they just stay out.
Yeah,
And people are complaining, at least I'm getting calls on that again, and it's that the water is filled up and I can't quite get the can to be empty, you know, it's kind of hard. It's not all, so, you know, if they could be, I thought they're trained not to, you know, to be able to take the lid and put it back in.
Yeah, it's typically an automated arm dump, and when you
Yeah.
put it down,
Right.
it's catch can, and it doesn't close. Again, time concerns, they're moving through it and they don't put the lids back. That's common, I have that issue in San Juan Capistrano, except mine is they don't dump it hard enough for the
Right.
materials to
Right.
come out.
Yeah.
So I come out and I have the same
They don't
cardboard
do
box and my
They don't do a
recycling.
two shake in Capistrano?
Yeah, they don't do the little
Yeah, we
shake
get-
to
we
make
get
sure.
We get two shakes when we do it.
Yeah, that's important. That's important.
Well, you know, if we're gonna take action on this, we ought to be specific in what our expectation is from CRNR at our study session or whatever we decide.
Absolutely.
So,
And I think through our solid waste committee, there's some issues that we can
right,
talk about to bring back to the whole board,
yeah.
some of this stuff.
But we need to incorporate, like I just said, incorporate that into our action. Or it's nothing's gonna get
Or
done.
nothing is done.
We have the report, we need an implementation plan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Well, we can just put it down for the next study session, that the subject should be brought up.
Well, yeah. I think it should be more specific, in my opinion, than just general thing. We already know what the problem is and numerically how many are happening.
So it should be earmarked.
Yeah. So I would entertain a motion that we have CRNR at our study session and, you know, recommend to them at that time what our expectations are, and if they don't meet it, then there's a consequence.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I
I'll
guess.
second that.
Well, I think there's some issues, before we do that, I think there's some issues we need to identify, and we can do that through the ad hoc committee to bring back before you take a vote on that.
I think that's the way to go. And then
Or bring it back to the study session.
Vila can let us know on the study session if we need to discuss tonight. You know what I mean? We don't want to have it as a mandate that they're here every meeting, every study session.
But Jim's right, if we don't delineate it,
No,
take
you're,
away
The
action.
staff is gonna tell us, they're gonna know what the problems are, right, Vila? You would know, and Scott would know, then they could put it on a study session. We don't want to have every study session, because it'll be a, you know, a debating situation. We don't want that. We just want to take care of any problems that arise. You know, you guys agree? I don't think we need a motion to do that.
I'll take back in a second.
so, we're just gonna go with what we got.
I don't think so. I mean,
This is the recent
just
right now,
just
we
receive the file.
we know in the report what needs to be addressed. As Director Schaefer says, we were gonna talk about those issues at the next ad hoc committee. We can get direction from the ad hoc committee, and then when they're ready to report to you, they will do that, and we can, if it means taking actions, you know, we can do that. But I think what Director Schaefer says and what Director Perry's been done, it's not a bad idea, is have the ad hoc committee flush this out and then bring it back to the board.
Okay, so we don't take any action, we
You don't
just
need to
direct you
Is
to
there
bring that out.
Correct.
Receive and file.
Yes.
Okay, that's item 2, let's see, for 4. And now we're gonna move up to item 2, consider approving out-of-state travel for general manager to attend.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any further discussion?
Where is Hearst, Texas?
It's just on the outskirts of,
It's okay, it's a big state.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 3, Costa Mesa Sand District's emergency preparedness exercise debriefing.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is a debriefing of our recent training in our Emergency Operations Center, which was, I thought was important because we had some new employees that have never been in an EOC or experienced how an EOC operates. So it was good training for those new employees. It's also good training for refreshers, as always, for our employees. So with the last one we did was in 2017, and we did a tabletop exercise simulating an earthquake. This year we did a tabletop exercise simulating severe flooding from inclement weather. We would talk about certain scenarios, and then we would talk among each other how to address those certain scenarios. On your staff report, there's a list of about 9 items that we identified, lessons learned, and how what we can do in the future. Number one, we need to reach out to the cities of Newport Beach and Costa Mesa for their EOC training and witness how their EOC functions. As Mr. Moser mentioned in his comments, Newport Beach has a very extensive EOC. I mean, they have trained professionals there 24/7, basically on commercial preparedness. And I believe, Gina, did you go to their EOC, or some of my staff members went to their EOC once and saw how they operate, and it is top notch. Costa Mesa's not bad, but you know, if we're gonna go Newport Beach, another obviously is the county's EOC, more on the, we call them the Hill. Is what an EOC should look like. So that, I think that'd be really good for our staff to see that. Also, we do have radios in our trucks, and what's important about those radios is they're 800 megahertz, which means we can now talk to other agencies. Before we just had a REROC radio, and that means we can only contact REROC. So the 800 megahertz is what all the first responders were using for a while. So police and fire were using it now, and public works. Now special districts have that access, which is great. So we need to expand that to our new trucks. We have some new trucks. We need to expand those radios to the new trucks. We also need to see if we can have our own frequency so we could talk within ourselves in the radio. Because in an emergency, cell phones might be down, right? We can't talk to each other but the radio. So it's important to make sure those radios are working and we have them all available in our trucks. We also talked about purchasing, $1,000 worth of meals ready to eat here at HQ and at the yard, because, there could be emergencies that is longer than 24 hours, and therefore the EOC's on shifts, 12-hour shifts. And so we need to be fed, right? We need, it was not a bad idea to have some MREs there just in case we can't get food anywhere else. We talked about buying some more lockable composting manholes to put in streets where are prone for flooding. We know where those streets flood. We had those maps from the city of Newport Beach. We periodically go check in those manholes, make sure they're plugged and sealed. But more importantly, we want to make sure they're locked, and the compostable lockable ones, so no one can open those manholes when there's a flooding street or flooding alley and all the water goes in. That's the worst thing. We do not want that to happen. So we want to make sure we have more of those locking, composting manholes. We also want to make sure we're trained on the county's web EOC, and that's a really good neat technology. It's basically a website we can log on to in the EOC, and we can see what other jurisdictions are doing. We can see if their EOCs are operating. We can see if they're having any issues or any mutual aid. We can see that in the web EOC, so it's good for staff to be trained on that, so it's a good way to communicate what other agencies are doing. And then lastly, we do have some sandbags at the yard. They are torn because of weather, so we need to replace those sandbags. As you know, we do have a sandbag station for the public that is currently out there right now. We have a storm that's going to be coming arriving here in a few days, so we do have a sandbag for residents to fill for their homes. All they need to do is bring a shovel. We have the sandbags for them, but all in all, it was a good training. So in 2020, we'll be focusing on implementing these 9 items, and then we'll get ready for another field exercise. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Bob?
Scott, I was incident commander at Orange County Sand District, and they have periodic training exercises. They're mainly for high flow, but the OCC is for, we had a Y2K exercise, and we had and also earthquakes and other natural disasters, but high flow is the main thing. You might want to contact them and have a staff member watch them as they go through the same kind of exercise that you probably went through. I'm really big on, my question on flow on fairgrounds is, do we own the sewers in the fairgrounds, or are they private?
I'll defer that to Rob.
We own a little piece of one, but we do not own the majority.
Okay. And maybe I should ask a question later, but when will we be putting the flow meter in the line to monitor the flow?
The flow meter is in.
Okay.
And
Was it in with the last rainstorm?
it was put in after the last rain.
Okay.
But we're just in time for this storm coming, so so we're ready.
Okay.
It'll be in for 3 months.
And can we probably have no jurisdiction over their manhole, the lockable, potential lockable manholes. Do we have any jurisdiction if we find that they are experiencing opening manholes in the low parts?
Yes,
Okay. We can work on that
yes,
if need be.
right.
Are you referring to the
Fairgrounds.
Arlene?
Yeah, I was curious, do we, Scott, do we do a master plan? In other words, do we share it with other cities so that we kind of know?
We have an emergency operations plan, which is basically under the standardized emergency management system, and it's basically the same plan all the other agencies have. It's very similar. So we all have to adopt under those standards.
That's what I was
So
wondering.
it's all basically the same thing.
One last question. Could we have a study session item on the plan to purchase and install those manholes in the streets that we know
much better than they were.
I don't know if I want to hear the answer to that.
Yeah, right.
Back to your food purchasing, are you gonna do that soon?
Yes.
And are you gonna purchase some like equipment to cook it in case the gas lines are down?
A lot of times, I think they don't even need anything, you just open them up and they're ready to go.
I think that's a real good idea. I mean, all the schools do it.
Do they?
Just, we used to have a shed up there with all the food and water in case of emergency.
Orange County Sand District also has a small farm, all that, those supplies.
A lot of peaches, you're supposed to eat a lot of peaches.
Okay, let's move along. Engineers report.
Thank you, Mr. President and board members. Item 1 is the project status report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Rob? Good job, Rob. Keep it up.
Thank you. Gina, could you bring up the tributary area attachment at the bottom of the report on 3150 Bear Street? There we go, perfect. Okay, so Trinity Broadcasting Network, the flashy, well-lit cathedral when you drive down the 405 at 3150 Bear is right here. They've been sold. It's going to be an international school with 600 students. They are served by this sewer lateral that goes this way to this candy cane colored line and then into OCSD. However, currently we have restaurants down here and here that put grease in our system. We're finally getting a handle on it, but they chase that grease all the way up here in this way, and it comes in here and goes in the candy cane line. The redevelopment of this is going to be a lot of extra wastewater, well beyond what we would normally calculate. And that's because it's a school. It's going to be a school with 600 students.
And that they live on the campus.
Right.
That's what's different.
So if we let them go in here, this line will be too full. So we do not want a full line coming this way and grease coming that way, and all that meat up there will get corrosion, there'll be turbulence, it'll be a mess. So we're making them sewer in a different direction. We're making them sewer directly to OCSD. Can you show the other attachment, please?
Does OCSD know that?
Yes. So this is OCSD's 33-inch Giesler Red Hill trunk sewer. And OCSD's policy is we do not deal with private people. We only deal with public agencies. So they're making us own this piece of sewer right here. This little 20 feet or 15-inch. So we would own this manhole and own this. This is the proposed limits of the easement. We're trying to determine whether we need an easement on city property. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. We don't need easements in public right-of-way. We're not sure of this area. So what would happen here is, let's assume we do get an easement from the city. So we box this in like this. So we would be accepting one easement from the school, one easement from the city. Can you go back to the other one, please?
Hey, Rob, is that line underneath the freeway?
It's just on the edge of the freeway. It's right along here. So, where was it? So, the trucks, how do you get over here? You get there by going in here, this way, and this way. All the public utilities will be going that way. OCSD, gas, electric, everybody. So it looks like to avoid this mess, we'll be accepting a pipeline easement and an access easement. And as usual in these matters, we do not buy easements. We do not pay for this privilege of having a line there. They need our sewer, so they pay everything. In addition to the board and our attorney making sure that they pay our legal and engineering costs. So this is a request for approval in concept. When we have sensitive issues like this, we go to the board for discussion and concept review and approve it at that level, then we come back with it. Alan will certainly be involved because there would be a grant of an easement, and there might even be an agreement for the access easement and all. And Alan looked at the environmental review and has some comments on that, and I'd like to hear from Alan, if you would, please.
Alan, do you have any comments?
Yes, Mr. President. Originally, this was proposed as a minor sewer alteration, and therefore it was exempt from CEQA. But that exemption only applies if it doesn't have a significant environmental effect. Here, the minor sewer alteration has a dramatic effect on the environment in that it allows for increased development. So at this point, we're asking that we take the planning exemption, which is that this is merely a conceptual planning study, no formal approvals are being given, and we truly are just getting a concept approval from you. There'll obviously be indemnification agreements and lots of land use agreements, and the city will probably have to do a CEQA analysis of the impacts of this project. But we won't stand on an exemption at this time to give an approval that they can take to the city and say, we have a will serve right here, and so therefore give us our permits. So take it a step at a time. Today is just a conceptual presentation to you to see if you have any objections to the concept.
I think at the last city council meeting, did they approve?
Yes.
They approved it,
Yes.
that's what I thought I read.
That's what I was
They
just
approved
thinking.
it.
They approved the school?
Yes, they approved the school.
You know,
They must
why
have
did
approved
they
it subject to
approve
them
this
having sewer
before?
capacity.
I didn't go to that meeting, but I'm not sure.
Oh, it's in the paper.
I know, but he's
Yeah.
talking
It's
about.
contingent upon these other things
Yeah,
happening.
right, yeah.
Right.
We'll have to take a look at what environmental review they did and see if we can piggyback on it.
Okay, well, thank you, Alan. So that is what is being recommended. Staff does recommend that we sewer in this direction. We're very fortunate, because otherwise we'd be wrestling with them over their wastewater going that way.
Is this a foreign school, foreign students that are going to be living on that campus?
I think it's an international school, right?
International.
I didn't look too much at
Yeah, I think it
that.
is, that's what I read.
It's just 627 students.
I'm sure with people living there, they'll turn down the lights.
The electricity bill like you never seen.
The thing
So,
is,
that,
the residents around here are so upset, mainly because of South Coast Plaza's there. You've got,
That's on the other side of the freeway though.
it doesn't matter, the idea is that, you know, they're
Oh,
using
yeah,
that
yeah,
area.
you're right.
Yeah, but what's interesting is that tract of homes that's right behind the
Yes.
school that used to be Bear Street School.
Yes, yes.
TBM bought almost all of those homes. So I don't,
there's a subdivision right here. This
It's a
is
gate that-
lifestyles.
the gated community.
Right, and this is the dentist. And this line comes from over here to serve that little dental building that's on Bear Street
Well, for that development, the gated development,
here.
that goes that way, the sewer goes that way?
This is the sewer.
No, but I mean, which way where does the sewer from that?
All, everything inside this purple boundary goes to the candy cane line.
Gotcha.
So this is the sewer.
Okay.
So it goes up and it goes in an easement between two of the units to this line
Got it.
that's in an easement also. So we have an easement here and here. This is private. And then we get into the public street there.
So it really does make sense for the new line to be done. I mean, especially with like you said, the restaurants, I'm gonna involve.
Right, there's gonna be a food, right, we have our own issues. It took us years to be able to get this under control with our FOG program. Finally beat them down, and we're removing a hotspot at that point. And there's a lot of flow in here. This is a hotel with a pump, and this is 3033 Bristol, where all these new restaurants are. So our FOG program really made a difference.
So what are you asking for us?
I'm recommending that you approve in concept sewering in this direction and accepting the easements as necessary to make that, to be able to sewer in that direction.
And then we're gonna be responsible for the line that goes to the
20 feet of,
20 feet.
right. It gives us 20 feet of sewer.
So we approve it in concept, it goes back to the developer and to the city, I assume?
Right, and then we start working on easement documents and access documents, and I inform them that they have to pay engineering and legal, and let's talk to the city about whether we need an easement there, and start getting some details ironed out.
I'm not sure if this is a relevant question, but so we do the approval, we do the plan, we give
They do
the
all the
estimate.
work.
They do all the work, they're gonna pay for everything.
Yes.
Does TBN, who's selling the property, pay for it, or does,
I
or is that up for their own negotiation?
I think TBN already sold it. I have an article.
So the buyer doesn't know,
They told, the buyer knows that there's a lot of balls in the air, and gave their engineering firm direction to do all the plans,
okay,
even before they got city council approval.
let's see the
We
lawsuit.
went to the planning commission first,
Right.
and then they, you know,
Is there a lot of redevelopment and/or development on that property to turn that thing into a school?
yes,
I have a picture of it. It's
yeah.
It's like a cathedral.
Just to build a dormitory.
Doesn't seem right.
Crazy.
You can just pass it.
Okay, so we need to approve this in concept.
That's right.
I'll move that we approve in concept the sewer alignment utilizing the direct connection to OCSD trunk, including the acceptance of easements for CMSD.
Second,
Well done.
I'll second.
Here, if I may, I'm going to approach, and you can take a look at that. That's what it looks like. And that's the article that I think it says it's sold.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Just for the
Thank you,
record,
Rob.
Thank you.
just for the record, Mr. President, you haven't approved anything really in.
I know,
It's all conceptual,
I know that.
subject to the details. Devil's always in the details.
How long will that take to be finalized, like a year or so?
It's going to take a little bit of time to wrestle all this together.
There's so many details.
Okay,
Thank you.
let's move along to engineer, oh no, we already did that. Treasurer's report.
Nothing this evening, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Attorney's report.
Only happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Music to my ears. Okay, Orange County Sanitation District, Eric Saperstein from Washington DC, who's a consultant to Orange County San District, spoke to the group and commented on what was happening back there. And we all, I'm sure by now, have an inkling as to what's going on. But it was very informative talk, and I've known Eric for, oh gosh, 20 years. And he's just a very sharp guy and did a good job. Also, after we were discussing the fact that Orange County Sand District got approached by another property owner to purchase their property in the same general vicinity of what they've already bought. And so they're gonna consider it, but for some reason, they feel they have a little more leverage than they had on the other negotiations, because they didn't have any leverage on the other negotiations, believe me. But they need, once again, they need this space, and the good Lord isn't making much more of that over there. So they're gonna move ahead with that, they're gonna consider it.
And to add to that, we also had the state report from Eric McDonald, or the legislative activities.
Oh, yeah.
State. And also the OC Business Council gave them an award for their odor project.
Yeah.
I thought that was one of the more significant, fun things to hear about. And they're taking a lot of organic waste, not odor, organic. So they're working jointly with
About half.
a lot of agencies.
Yeah. Santa Ana River Flood Control,
No meeting this week.
that's right. Independent Special District, Orange County.
Actually, I didn't go to the November one, no, I did go to the last one. And the last one, we were working with CSDA on talking about having a scholarship to give out to the children, so we've got to work on this though. It's called Take Action Grief Type. And so it was too late for us to get it in at the time, so I'll have more on it this next meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Special District Risk Management, Mike?
We don't meet until January, second week in January, so I'll have a report for you in January.
Old business?
Oh, you forgot CSDA?
What? I did?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't see it here.
I don't have much.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
But the only thing I wanted to say was, we have switched around now because it's the end of the year. And so we have our new president, Jeff Hodges, who has looked at all the people, the forms that everybody wanted to be on committees. And so we're all assigned to different committees. And I'm still going to be on the legislation committee. And I'm going to be working more with Gina, which I'll be giving her information to, and we'll try to get more out. And Mark has helped us already on one incident that came up with legislation as a filler. And then I'm also assigned to the Professional Development Business Committee, and I'll be chairing that. And that means I'll be doing a convention, a conference this year. And it's going to be in Palm Springs. And it's going to be in August. And I know everyone's going, ooh, but you know what? It's at the Marriott. And Marriott's the one that has the boat.
Gondolas
and everything. And we're promising everything will be under roof. So in other words, you don't have to go out if you don't want to, into the heat.
Is there any move, I know Mike does a lot of teleconferencing. Is there any move with CSDA, does CSDA do teleconferencing, or you don't have to make the trip up there?
Oh.
Well, I mean, when you chair a meeting, do people call in?
Oh, yes, yeah, all the time, yeah.
So they do that?
I even do as far as how many are there and quorum and.
Yeah, I'm chair of the Alliance Executive Committee, and we do almost everything by teleconference.
I think that's where associations are moving.
I think so too. And Skype, they're gonna start doing more and more Skype meetings.
I'm on this
or whatever
committee
they
too
call it.
on that. So, so anyway, the next meeting that I'll be attending will be in January. It'll be January 16th, 17th, and at the 16th one, we're kind of giving a going away party to our membership gal, Catherine, and it's really sad because she's done so well and so fantastic, but she's retired, and she'll come back just for the conference in August, just to kind of help, so, you know, so that'll be that. And aside from that, we were working all through December, believe it or not, as far as we have something now, if you're on the website and you have a question or you want to ask, say, I'm from a certain district and I want to know, has anyone ever done a certain thing? Then people call in and say, yes, I've done that, and this is the way it works. So it's kind of like brainstorming, and it's real good, it's interesting. That's about it.
Okay. Old business?
Other meeting. We also all of us went to Waco. And that Saperstein also spoke to us about the issues in Washington DC.
Yeah.
But before that, Larry McKinney from Net talked, and this is for Rob. I've never heard of this. They're going to be rebuilding a valve repair situation at one of the dams, and they're going to be using ductile iron pipe with joints. Have you ever heard that before?
Oh, yeah.
For earthquakes.
Wow.
Did you?
Segmented, you know, so they can move.
Right. They have to have special joints for that, mechanical joints that allow some flexibility.
I just thought I'd let you know that he reported that. That's the first time they're going to be using it.
Sounds like it. Ductile iron pipe, though,
I know.
we have our troubles with it.
Yeah, well, that's why I brought it to your attention.
Thank
But they continue to use it with the joints, so.
Right, they have to coat the inside and the outside to protect it.
The pipe is brittle, but they've apparently developed a new type of joint, and the short segments, you know, so that it can.
Right.
It's always a problem when you do an excavation next to
Right.
a structure that tends to move.
That's what the mechanical joints are for.
Yeah, well, they've developed a new one, I think that's what our.
Sounds great.
Yeah, this is something new that they're using, so I've never heard of it before, but I thought I'd give it to your attention.
Thank you.
Jim, one other meeting, several of us attended the Zero Waste
Oh, yes,
Forum or whatever.
yeah.
At OCC.
You know, sitting there listening to that young lady, she's pretty passionate. She's more than passionate. But I kept thinking, to change your lifestyle to something like that would be absolutely impossible. I know she was talking about taking her jars into the store to buy whatever provisions. So she hauls those jars with her, right? And some stores won't let her bring the jars in, and
Yeah.
I thought, I'd give her credit. I mean, I'd like to get my trash down to that much, but I was also thinking, it's kind of ironic that Mike Carey, who lives off recycling, is sponsoring a zero waste seminar, which would cut him out of business. But it was an interesting talk listening to that young lady. It was,
We also had a good booth there with Scott. Right?
yeah, and I think you passed out a lot of good information.
And I saw after her talk that Scott hid the business cards.
You didn't give her a business card, I hope. She refuses business cards.
Yeah. That was incredible.
I was under the impression she was going to speak for 2 hours, but she only spoke for an hour. Then she answered questions.
Yeah.
It was a good presentation. I appreciate what you were doing out there too. It was good.
Okay, old business, new business. I have something under director comments. You know, the lack of having microphones over here is really, I mean, it's harder for us to hear
Yes.
what's going on over there. And, I mean, when are we gonna get this thing handled? I mean, is it in the works, or?
We'll have the new AV system installed by your January board meeting.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. They're starting work January 6th.
yeah.
And this has been terrible. Either that or the staff needs to get up and to the podium
Yeah,
and
'cause
stand there,
it's
so at
just-
least we can hear some.
Maybe I'll switch seats with you, because I think you're pretty good.
Gee, yeah,
I just want to be very good.
I can't.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the cause?
Happy holidays.
Happy
Yeah.
holidays!
Staff, thank you for everything.
This meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.